Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Morning.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good morning, good afternoon. You're all joining us live as this is a particularly stress-free show. It's going to be the case for the rest of the week, I feel, between Christmas and New Year, as everyone's out and about doing their thing, which is perfectly understandable. So, let's do a bit of very laid-back housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, not since the Black Swan.
Shout out to Uncool Ben, who says, hope Phil B has the day off. Who's Phil Bill? Who's Phil B? Anybody know who's talking? Oh, he's talking about Professor Phil Bell.
Professor Phil.
My bad. Sorry, Uncool Ben. Didn't know who you were talking about for a moment there. Prof Phil, right. Did Quantum Eraser not... I intended to watch his show. Did he not cover Prof Phil Bell yesterday?
Yes, he did, and it was outstanding. My God, the idiocy coming from that show yesterday.
Anybody else catch it? Anybody else see QE's presentation on Phil Bell? I haven't seen it. I just didn't get a chance. I kept bringing it up and not watching it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, gas go down, go boom boom.
Was that his assertion? Hey, John. Hey, John.
Hey, you didn't hear me?
No. We heard you that time, though, so it's all good. And we're only on to first housekeeping question. We started with Earth curve this time. Go on.
I noticed John yesterday was he said he was bouncing around from Discord channels. Kind of curious to see how that went. But anyways, go on, Nathan, I guess.
Well, maybe he'll tell us. Like I say, in this week, it's pretty laid back. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
It wasn't too bad. There wasn't nothing too crazy being put forward. I mean, I didn't agree with everything, but, you know, who's going to sit there and argue about every point, you know?
Right.
He did kind of cover it yesterday because I asked and there was no further rebuttals in regards to the curved adjacent argument. You know, any evidence you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle.
Yes, Zanuck took a chance at answering that, and he said that just because you have a vertices at the point of observation and a zenith position above the GP of the star you're observing doesn't mean you're making a triangle, I think was what he was trying to say.
What? That's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense at all. He was saying that the angle you're acquiring to the star only allows you to gauge the distance to where that star has a GP, but it's still an angle. He still didn't answer how you could have a curved adjacent. He just said, I'm not having a curved adjacent, and then just ignored the problem.
I see.
Now, what he's doing is reversing the triangle. He's not doing what the sextant is meant to be doing. What he's doing is his zenith and then the angle to the star. So the 90-degree angle is above your head, not on the ground.
That's fine. That's how the sextant works. There's nothing wrong with doing that triangle in the sky, but you still need to establish a baseline, because as he's pointing out, whilst talking about only the triangle in the sky, he's trying to acquire a GP. That's a ground position. Well, so what you're going to be doing? Well, you're going to be transposing that triangle into
From
the
the ground,
sky.
Nathan.
Go on, Neil.
No, forget it. If I'm interrupting the show, I'll stay on mute.
What do you mean? You have interrupted it.
Hey, you're already interrupted. Just speak up.
Yeah, but it just doesn't seem like I'm in a bad spot. All I was saying was that's what they're doing. They're staying away from the ground. They're not going near the ground anymore. Everything's in the air.
Yes, except for the fact he mentioned GP according to John. Well, GP is ground position. So what are you going to do with your triangle in the sky when you're trying to establish something on the ground? Well, you've got to transpose that onto the ground, right? But to do that, you need parallel lines, and you need to reference a flat baseline. So what are you going to do? It's all about having 90 degrees, a box. But they just want to stick with the one triangle in the sky, say that you're just trying to get a GP, but say they're not making a triangle. None of this makes any sense.
You know what?
Yeah, it didn't. It was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You probably heard more about it than I did.
No, I actually didn't. You go on. I was gonna say something else. I was gonna say we should let Zanuck loose on again and let him come back on the show for a bit, see how he handles the sextant on the show. But what were you gonna say, Father to a Stone Child?
Well, I was just saying he's keeping everything fragmented. Of course, he's an expert of the sextant. He's done one 30 years ago, and just a bunch of claims that Zanuck would make. Just kind of out there. The dude's been everywhere and done everything, of course, but he was trying to keep it fragmented. He didn't want to talk about the process. He wanted to talk about just one aspect of it, and then that one aspect where you actually get the measurement from, he would just scream tangent over and over again. And every time anyone tried to address, well, you can't have a curved adjacent, he just keeps screaming tangent.
You're going to need an R value for his tangent, though. Tangent to what? A sphere is assuming with an R value. Where's he getting that?
Well, that's the thing. He would not answer past that.
Okay. I mean, if somebody was to tolerate his assertion of tangent, I'm assuming R, I'm assuming there's a straight line to the horizon. That'd be a tangent. No, you haven't. Black Swan. Idiot. It's all refracted, you muppet. What is it, no Atmo Day?
Yeah, right. But he just, he was dead at the point where he was having to acquire that angle, and he knew it. And his brain would just not accept it. He was just screaming at people, his, tangent.
No, I totally get it. It's normally someone else on the panel that's offering the ancillary point that comes thereafter. You're right, it's dead on arrival, because you can't have the angle measured if the ground doesn't give you a straight baseline.
Absolutely, that was exactly my point, because he was always talking about angles and angles and angles. The question was, how do you have the angle that you're talking about? You cannot have that angle on a curved surface. You wouldn't have it. But they keep going with the angles.
When you say he wouldn't have it, what do
you
you
were
mean?
there yesterday, weren't you?
What do you mean, though, he wouldn't have it? That's a fact. What do you mean he won't have it? When you ask an anti-flat earther or globe believer, how do you acquire an elevation angle if you've got a curved adjacent? It's not that you just don't have it. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's correct. They don't have it, no. And he even presented a right angle triangle. I welcome him to the flat Earth. And they speak on both sides, you know. They will tell you how flat it is, and on the next sentence they will say it's curving.
Yeah, but they're telling you how flat it is because to acquire an elevation angle in the first instance, they need a flat baseline. That's what an elevation angle is going to give them. That's what an elevation angle is. They can't measure an angle if they've got a curved adjacent. So they've got to describe how they're going to measure an angle. That's two straight lines. So that's a flat earth requirement that they need to do first. So just screaming, well, it's a tangent that I haven't got, Black Swan. Well, what do you mean it's a tangent to a sphere that you're assuming with an R value that's debunked also by the Black Swan? What are you talking about? If you've got a tangent, then the line that you're measuring is pointing downwards. Right? That's not going to give you a 90 degree. You can't use that tangent. That's not going to give you a box. You need the ground position to be parallel to the star above. So it's not going to work. What do you mean tangent? It doesn't work that way, fool.
Well, I think I think it was George that was pointing it out to him every time he would say angle. He'd say, "But you can't have curved adjacent," and like Zanuck would just scream at him, like, "Let me talk! It's a tangent!" It was hilarious. I mean, it was hilarious.
This is the same Zanuck that had to take time off because he was too stressed out about this whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to give yourself an aneurysm.
No.
You're gonna have a
No,
heart
that's
attack, mate.
Zinda.
Oh, is that Zinda?
That's Zinda. We're talking about Zanuck, who's the one that gave you the clarification of the Coriolis.
Same principle. You're going to give yourself a heart attack, my friend.
You let him back in here. Just to them boot him.
I don't know. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope. Gonna need half of that.
When you say, would you let him back in here? What did you achieve? So he shouted through everybody tangent when being asked, how'd you get a curved adjacent? Can you give me anything else? Let's say it took an hour. Let's just be on the low side. Let's say it took an hour. What else did you get?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing that I heard.
Yeah, I was going to ask him a
The
few
only thing he
questions,
did-
but everybody wanted to keep over talking me. And then when we get to the elevation angle, this guy just goes off into a monologue.
Yeah, the only thing he would acknowledge is you need two straight lines to make an angle, and then he would never address, the fact that he's presupposing a flat Earth at that point. And I do believe I heard Chaos try to hit him with the three questions, but I think Zanuck knew what was coming because he was picking a fight with anybody that would,
Okay. So other
Yeah,
than him
that's
screaming...
because I got. Oh, sorry.
No, go on, Chaos.
That's because I already got Zanuck and Rumpus at the same time to admit they answered all three questions properly, and I welcomed both of them at the same time to flat Earth. When I got there, no, but wait.
Oh, no.
No.
good one.
No.
Yeah, Zanuck and
I swear
Rumpus on the
this-
same one. The 3 questions.
This housekeeping question is like Everclear. It sneaks up on you really fast.
As an anti-flat earther, or do you mean? What do you mean?
Oh, for an anti-flat earther, yeah, it just sneaks up on them. You know, they get those 3 questions, and then it's all of a sudden they're punch drunk.
Can you give us the rendition, Chaos, if you're willing?
Of what happened with Zanuck and Rumpus?
No, of the 3 questions. If you just rattle them off, say question 1, then clearly state it, and then I'll ask you to repeat it potentially.
Yeah. All right, question number 1. Are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects?
Can somebody give him an answer? I'm not going to get him to repeat it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that was what sextants do. They do use the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects. All right, question number 2. Are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects?
Okay, this is the
Yes.
crucial question for the acceptance of how the tool works. I will get you to repeat that again.
Yeah.
George has already said yes. One deck said yes. Just if you can repeat that question again, please.
Are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects?
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. Correct.
Yes, they are correct. All right. Question number 3. Can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved adjacent?
No, you cannot.
No.
And by that time, they're already trying to back themselves into a corner when we've already decapitated them. So it's that simple.
Quiet on the show, but it's got surprisingly good view. We've almost got 100 people watching, and we're not even 20 minutes into the show. So there's obviously a lot of people watching. Good. Please share the show. Thank you very much. It's a pretty chilled out, relaxed one. We're just going over the elevation angle, curved adjacent on a sphere Earth that can't work, can't give you your position. You need flat Earth for that. And it's, it's fairly relaxed. Fairly laid back on this show, I would say, today.
Is it possible that it's too swift of a kill that they don't even know their head's been cut off? 'Cause, like with the guillotine, just their eyes are still moving and they're still trying to use words, but like they just don't even know it.
Hold on. That's a perfect illustration. When you chop a chicken's head off and they still go running around with their head off, that's exactly what's happening.
It is kind of what it seemed like.
I don't mind a clean kill. You know, I don't want to get into the weeds of if we assume an R first and then work out how it can work, because that takes forever and loses some people in the argument. If their head's removed immediately and all they can do is tell you how flat Earth is, we're going to have to measure an angle, i.e. 2 straight lines, not one of them curving. Well, what about if you've got a curved line to acquire an elevation angle? What are you going to do then? Well, then tangent. No, black swan. What about the straight line that you've told us is bent for the last 24 months straight? You're just going to tell me that's straight now, but straight and not acquiring a 90 degree, so you can transpose this sky triangle onto the ground. What are you talking about? You don't understand how sextant works. You need these lines to be parallel, flat, straight, flat Earth. There's no way around it. You've got to measure an angle first. So, for me, their rebuttal cements your win. Unlike the Black Swan, refraction doesn't cement your win. It's their scrambling, death throes, gasping for air, clutching at straws, whatever analogy you want to put on it, because they don't realise that by saying refraction, they're no longer acquiring geometry. Whereas in this instance, their only comeback is to tell us it's flat. Shout out to Godzilla37, who says, off topic, I heard you have to be tested before watching the Matrix movie. Is the irony only enjoyed by those who can see? I don't know, Godzilla. But very amusing.
By the way,
thank you for the super chat.
I have to say, listen, to the people saying that they fell asleep and this, that, and the third, listen, they're capping, okay? Yeah, it's a bit cheesy, the graphics and whatever, but I love the movie. So watch it
don't
for
ruin it. I
yourself.
want to see
Don't
it.
listen to the critic.
No spoilers. I've stopped watching Matrix Explained. I want to know what happens. I've not watched any trailers, and I will get to it because it's such an instrumental in this show movie. We've talked about the Matrix throughout the entire run of Flat Earth Debate. You know, it's the only consistent movie. I can't think of another one. Can anybody else think of another movie that we've talked about? Maybe Star Wars, maybe.
Well, how about Don't Look Up? I actually watched that yesterday.
Oh, here we go. Nice segue. Go ahead, Arwen.
No, don't spoil it. I didn't see it yet.
Oh, tough luck. No, no. You can't get away with that. Something like The Matrix is pivotal, and you know, it may or may not define a generation like the original did. But then again, it neither did the original because it came out in '99. So it was up against possibly the best movies ever produced. Because in '99, the best movies that have ever been came out. So The Matrix was one of many, many, many really good movies that came out that year. If you don't believe me, go and look at the movie list from 1999 and see how good all the movies were. They're all excellent. Obviously, there's some crap ones, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, they were really working. They were. That's true. Like the quality of the movies have gone down, but you know that's up for you guys to decide. I think there were some really great movies in the '90s.
Frequency.
Frequency with Dennis Quaid.
Correct.
I love that movie.
Outstanding. Bunch of bullshit, but it's outstanding.
Sure, but we draw less and less reference to the further the you know the 4 movies, now 5 movies if you include the Animatrix version, have expanded out into. So you know, a lot of the references that we've pulled from will be from what is I'm going to call Animatrix 1.5. Everyone happy with that? Right. So from 1.5, and what is actually called 2, but reloaded. But when you get into the latter movie and now the more recent one, I doubt they'll have anything that's groundbreaking that will, you know, pull from like Red Pill, Blue Pill, or Walking Through the Matrix, talking about everyone being plugged in. The basic concepts of what Matrix had to offer was encompassed pretty much in the first movie. And if you want to expand it out into things like the Merovingian and other aspects like the Train Man, you've got that wrapped up in the first and second movie. You don't even necessarily need the Animatrix movie at all. But there are aspects that need a bit of an explanation that can expand out the full, you know, universe of Matrix by watching the cartoony one. But beyond that, you know, the third one didn't have anything really for me, and I doubt the new one will. But I still really want to watch it, and I don't want to know what happens. But as for Don't Look Up, Arwen, that's so on topic. Check it out. 24 minutes in, 100 people watching. Please share the show.
So Arwen, explain to us what you were gonna explain before I was like,
Yeah, that's fine. No, yeah. Look, the movie Don't Look Up is a movie that's not, in my opinion, it's not really about what it pretends to be about. I think that the movie is mostly about social psychological commentary on humanity and the influence of media and politics. I think that is the primary reality about it that drives the actors too, because I thought it was amazingly acted. I really did. And even funny too, on top of that, some in an annoying way, but it's on purpose. And I thought it was really good. But also at the same time, kind of depressing. It was really depressing. And yeah, they you don't believe the scientists, you don't believe the math. That's kind of like their bonus that they secretly shoved in there. But the whole movie is very blatantly about social commentary on the state of the human psyche in this era and the problems that we're all facing, right? And that made a big impact on me emotionally. So, yeah, I was very impressed by the movie overall. Very high quality acting, very serious and funny at the same time. So yeah, good movie. Heavy, but good.
Nathan, I thought you were kidding when you said they get eaten by dinosaurs. You weren't kidding.
No, I wasn't kidding. And it was extremely well acted, I agree. They had the creme de la creme of Hollywood's finest actors.
Yeah, I think that his name, the main actor.
Meryl
sorry,
Streep did a good
I'm so
job.
dead.
DiCaprio.
Yeah, DiCaprio. I thought that.
Meryl Streep.
Sorry. Yeah, Meryl Streep was Meryl Streep, kind of like a female Trump or
No,
something.
she was Kamala Harris.
Oh, I didn't
Kamala.
get that at all. I thought I didn't get that out
Shits
of
and
it.
giggles.
I didn't get that out of it at all. I mean, she wasn't black. But no, just kidding. I thought that DiCaprio was very convincing in his role with all the he really tried to express a certain type of personality, a certain type of nerd that is still very morally upright. And I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was honorable in his own way, how he acted it out. He took it very serious.
It was great.
And
There's one
yeah.
scene with Ariana Grande, and they're all waiting to go on a talk show, and they sit down in front of Ariana Grande, and she's like talking to her mates and texting and doing all the things you'd expect. And they're like, "Oh, you're a scientist. Oh, that's cool. Oh, how cool. That's really great. Oh, all this sort of stuff." And Leonardo DiCaprio says, "Oh, yeah, I heard about your breakup, and I'm very sorry to have heard that." They all stop, these three girls and the entourage behind them, look at Leonardo DiCaprio, and the Ariana Grande character says, "Why don't you mind your own fucking business, old man?"
Yeah.
And Leonardo DiCaprio
that was
looks at her and goes, "I think I'll do that."
Brilliant. It was full of that sort of thing.
What?
Right.
How millennials behave in reality? That kind of behavior. Yeah. It was very accurate in some parts of the movie.
That's why I said it's primarily about social commentary, but taken very serious, like social commentary on how people are with the media right now. And yeah, what has humanity become? It's that kind of a movie.
Well,
And like the media thing is almost a distraction, really.
Well, they've taken elements that I think are 100% real. So, for example, in the Oval Office, when they keep them waiting for an eternity, and then when they finally get in there, they laugh at them and go, "Do you have any idea how many near end-of-the-world experiences we get told are going to happen in this room?" Now, I think that bit was 100% true. In other words, the threat that they're imposed, that is being imposed on the characters in the movie, is obviously fictitious in both reality terms and in the movie terms, right? It's a fictitious, at the point that they're being told in the White House, threat. There's nothing to really worry about. You're worried about what the orbital mechanical mathematics that you've calculated based on light being physical entities in a sky vacuum, right? Yeah, that's not a real threat. Yeah, but obviously the movie makes it into a real threat with CGI and a story and a script and cinematography, right? So you've got this suspension of disbelief for you as the audience member, where your suspension of disbelief doesn't necessarily stop at the end of the movie theatre doors when you leave the movie theatre. If you're a globe believer or anti-flat earther, the terror that's being portrayed, you don't necessarily, and I'm talking about us being the exception to the rule, stop suspending that disbelief when you leave the movie theatre, or for you in your home when you're watching it on Netflix. Once the movie stops, you're left with the impression, because the idea that the heliocentric orbit of a comet that was formerly passing us by is now going to actually intersect because of the orbital mechanical motion. Well, all of that's bullshit. We all know that. But if you don't know all of that, the perceived threat is real. Now, what I'm saying in terms of the transposition into what would really be the case in the White House, they'd really react to some heliocentric quack, basically telling them that they're going to die because of the orbital motion that is calculated. You know, if they're in the know and they've got a decent advisor, they'll explain to the president, no, the heliocentric conception, modelling of the reality is never going to cause us any problems. It's just a way of conceptualising the motion of the stars. It's a model. Yeah, they've reified that into actually coming to get us as the boogeyman. Don't worry about it, Mr. or Mrs. President. You know, would be what the advisor said. Because you would hope, God, please tell me we're not run by complete idiots, probably, hope in vain, that there's some advisor somewhere that's a Freemason or otherwise that knows the real deal, that knows there's no bloody threat coming from the sky, that knows there's no real sky vacuum and infinite distances and rocks, and that lights are just lights. Now, for that guy, he's going to save potential panic and endless stupid amounts of money being spent that's already being seemingly spent on NASA for the people who think that there's a threat from the sky. Well, I'm sure there's a division that's the artificial threat from sky division that's got millions being pumped into it, right? So that, you know, if some quack does happen to go on the news and say, by the way, I've done the heliocentric calculations about orbital motion and I'm terrified that this is going to hit us, then they can say, no worries. We can quell the panic by telling them we'll see it as an opportunity because we'll send up this rocket to go and farm all the minerals from the comet. And it won't be any threat to you, but that's useful fear and mind control when they do it, because they'll know that they're not really doing anything because there's no rocks in a sky vacuum to be mining from. But, you know, you've then had it televised to you by some guy that doesn't realise he's reifying a model. So the transposition into reality and the fear it produces is very real if you don't know that you're living on a flat plane and the sky's not a vacuum.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why
but the Bible talks about the stars falling from the sky, though.
yeah, but that has
Hold on,
nothing
Kurt.
to do with this heliocentric conception. Can I quickly? I thought that from a global perspective, from Baldwin perspective, that movie was super cynical because of it, right?
I would like to point out you made an assumption. Just because they know that they're faking going to a sky, that they're faking all this, doesn't necessarily mean they know the nature of reality. They just know that they're faking something.
So you're trying to get around it by saying even though they know that what they're saying isn't the correct nature of reality, it doesn't mean that they know that there is no threat up from the sky. Is that what you're implying?
No, I'm saying just because they're lying doesn't mean they know the true nature of reality.
Oh, definitely. That's why you shouldn't ask. There's a damn good chance they haven't got the vaguest idea.
Yes, sir. That was my point. They may be more clueless than the anti-flat earthers that come here.
Right. That's why they've got to create a narrative. Because that leaves somebody who should be all-knowing, omnipotent, right? That's what they want to create as the impression of Big Daddy government. The people who run the show know better than you. They're all knowing. And if it comes to a situation so fundamental to your well-being, like the sky and the sun, if they go, yeah, I don't know, you're going to go, why would I trust you with X, Y, and Z then? You don't know. Shouldn't you be finding out? Now, maybe finding out would actually cost a significant amount more than just pretending to know. Just pretending to have NASA is cheaper than having somebody say, you don't know, you better find out then. And then them actually investing the money in trying to find out. Because they probably don't know and they haven't got the first clue where to start. But that's no good, because if someone like me says, yeah, they don't even know, that looks bad. They're going to control you and tell you what to do and take your money if you think that they're not like God, all-knowing. So, if they're all-knowing and you just get on with your day because they've already told you and you don't need to worry about it anymore, well, then that's that problem solved, probably for a much cheaper price.
Right, and because if they'd actually go out and research it, right, to figure out the holographic nature of the Celestials, exactly how that works, model it all out, they'd spend all that money, and then everybody would just not understand it and complain to them, like, oh, you spent all this money and we don't even understand this. So
They do the
probably
same thing
just
with
better
relativity.
just leave it alone.
Nobody understands relativity. They'll even tell you that when it comes down to it, they don't really understand it. As long as they think you're still, believe you're living on a globe, they'll tell you that nobody understands relativity. So they're in the same position that way. I really think they have no clue. And as long as they can just give the appearance of knowing, it gives them power.
Yeah, but relativity isn't actually a thing. It's just a concept, right?
I don't think that's what he means. I think he means in the respect to, on the flip side, in fact, of what John's just said. If you take the example with Michio Kaku, and he's talking about them being so wrong about the nature of how much is out there by a massive factor, they're almost dropping in the disclaimers about not knowing, so that if it's ever highlighted, then they can say, yeah, it's amazing how much we don't know, within the context of a heliocentric understanding. So I didn't think that needed reiterating, but as Arwin said that, I will reiterate it before making the next point, which is to say, yeah, so long as you're both on the same page, yeah, we both beg the question that the world's a sphere and we're in a sky vacuum. Okay, then it's okay to point out how little we know and kind of go, isn't that a wondrous part of not knowing, like I declare as a flat earther that not knowing what the sky is a wondrous thing. They flip it. But if you're someone like Wakey interviewing an astrophysicist, and their assumption is that you're on the same page as them, you can disclose all the things that you don't know. But the moment it turns out that you're not on the same page as them in terms of your reification of a heliocentric world, sphere in a vacuum, then that's a big problem. Because suddenly you're just declaring how much you don't know about the world. Now, you've got to understand that they don't know because they're going to be progressing society, so long as you understand the main point of the model. You've got to be on that page for us to talk in jest about how much we don't know. It's not allowed if you're of a different worldview.
Yep. That's it. They're fine to discuss it amongst themselves, but they will not discuss it in front of other people that have differing views.
Well, that would break the convention, right? When you step out of the convention, then they can unleash full political wrath on you, manipulate you out of the way. But if you stick to the convention, then everything is all good to them.
Yeah, and the astrophysicist said that. I thought you were a student of astrophysics or something of that nature. If I'd have known you were a flat earther, we wouldn't have been having this conversation, declaring about how we could just change the model when things don't match. I wouldn't have said that to you if I'd have known. That was the best question he asked. So what happens if it just doesn't work and it doesn't match with the model? What's the best course of action? Oh, well, we can just change it. Oh, I see. This description of our fundamental reality that's reified into existence as though it is actually the world we live in. If something doesn't work in that reified model that we don't live in, you just change the model and everyone will think we still live in it. That's what she's saying. But as I say, if Wakey, that's Mark Knight, was also on the page of heliocentrism, it'd be fine to laugh about that, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, we just changed the model.
Change the model, maybe change a few numbers, a bit of a slider here and there. Mostly just adding to the story, right? It's being built like a giant collective sci-fi mechanics book. That's what the entire heliocentrism is. And it's been worked on for a very long time. A lot of people spent a lot of very focused time on getting it just right.
That's right, describing it just right, so the world you think you live in is the same as the model they've made of a sphere Earth.
Yeah, it's an eloquent model. It's a very eloquent model. It's just wrong.
It's just not the world we live in. Didn't get all the way through housekeeping today. We're only 40 minutes in, which isn't 45, so any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I don't know where it is right now. It's too much rainy clouds everywhere.
Although I got an answer for that. You can't acquire R on a flat plane to get a distance to the sun.
In other words, if you're going to make assertions about sticks and shadows or anything to do with measurements required for a sun assertion, then you can't make that assertion because you're going to need a flat plane and you can't introduce a curved adjacent or have an R value if you're making those angle measurements with the sun. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they can't even get that far. The
Well,
curved
I'd say-
adjacent kills it.
I describe that differently. I would say you can't use the Earth's surface to derive a location from through calculation, right? Because not doing that doesn't actually yield any position. Like if you don't do it, yeah, how you're just left with it's an apparent thing. There is no distance to it. We can't figure out the distance. Doesn't necessarily matter what you presuppose.
Isn't that what you just said?
Yes.
Yeah. Arwin likes to state that he's going to disagree, then in sincerity completely agree with you. I don't know why he does it. It's amusing.
I don't mean to. By the way, there's a lot of guys here that do that. But I do it too sometimes. I just don't even notice that that's what I'm doing.
Arwen's the best at doing it, though. I'll give him that. I actually had a day where I had 30 minutes of agreeing with him in anger.
Oh, YouTube has... thank you, Ute. Let's just bring that up and pause it on my chat. It's nice having all this screen real estate again so I can see things like this happen. Let's just pause the screen. Okay, so from the Wakey Wakey interview, quote, "The model is wrong." Astrophysicist Dr. Svetlana, I hope I'm saying that right, referring to the heliocentric model after being told that we can see the moon from Florida, US, and Queensland, Australia at the same time. So her reaction to that was, the model is wrong. Thanks, Ute.
Yeah,
I
that's
wonder
usually
if,
a big concession.
Go on, George.
No, just saying it's a big concession, saying that the model is wrong.
It's only a model. We don't live on a model.
That's what I was about to say.
Absolute.
Would they use that as a defense when it come down to, if it was a public debate and someone was pointing out all the flaws in the model, would they use that as the defense?
Possibly. It depends if the debate had been structured around the model proving that the Earth was a sphere, which is there's a good chance it would be.
Yeah, most of the time they won't even enter into a debate unless they can force you to hold up a model for their false dichotomies.
Correct. That's what the guy was trying to do yesterday. How do you explain tectonic activity on a flat Earth? Well, what's tectonic activity? What's a tectonic plate? What are you describing? And then forcing me into a position where what I have to, because you demand it, give you a description of that on a flat plane so that we've got a nice setup for you to burn a straw man that's been built at your behest. You must build a straw man for me to burn. Describe this heliocentric nonsense claim on a flat Earth so I can burn it in front of you. And if you don't, then I won't take part in this game. That's what the guy tried yesterday. When it got to, well, what's a tectonic plate? He instantly knew he was screwed. So he wouldn't take part anymore. Just descended the show into a shit show.
Right, Nathan, but how would you see tectonic plates on a flat Earth, though?
What's a tectonic plate?
It's a plate, a lot of dirt that's separated and moves around somehow, causing earthquakes, supposedly.
Supposedly. Want to show me one?
No. You have to go to a geologist and look at their graphs and listen to their maths and then believe they're right.
But we've only dug down about 12k. How far down do these plates extend? Aren't they the entirety of the crust on a heliocentric sphere Earth?
Yes, and that's why we need to know what it's like on a flat Earth.
But I just said we've only dug down 12k. How can you possibly assert that we know what's the entire composition of the Earth's crust when assumed to be a sphere with a molten iron core if we've only dug down 8 miles?
Well, heliocentrists know it. They have certainty of what it's like. Why don't you? Just because only we've dug 8 miles deep? Come on.
Well, it's a heliocentric description that they've got absolutely no validity for and no proof or demonstrable evidence of. It's a claim that they make, as a heliocentrist, on a sphere Earth with a molten iron core and a crust and tectonic plates making up that crust. Well, prove that. What do you mean explain how that works on a flat Earth? What, your idea that the layer of the Earth that you've got no idea what composes is actually digging itself beneath another massive thick layer because of the molten surface that's really hot beneath, making a solid turn to liquid and dig itself underneath to then dissolve into molten metal? No. You've got to show me that that's actually the case before I start explaining it on a model I haven't asserted.
That's a lot of words for just saying, yeah, sorry, I can't calculate it, unlike heliocentrists.
Oh, right, I can't calculate this thing that you can't prove actually happens.
Yep.
Oh, well, so if I can prove my calculations in terms of unicorn digestion...
Sounds interesting. What is this unicorn digestion model for tectonic plates on a flat Earth, Nathan?
There's no unicorns. Do you want to show me tectonic plates?
Well, maybe the tectonic plates are the actual intestines on the unicorn.
Maybe
We
the
are in
unicorn is
a
the
unicorn.
tectonic plates. Yeah. If we descend this into farce. Meanwhile, it's an assertion that a heliocentrist makes because they were taught it in about 7th grade. But the evidence was presented as cartoons and pictures of sphere Earth with a core.
I know. They got their own elaborately made up and calculated story that they have no proof for. And then they're like, haha, you don't even have a story about this. Silly flat earthers.
Yeah,
You don't have a story.
refutation
See, that's
does-
a bunch of bullcrap.
Refutation does not require replacement. Just because they've invented a story about unicorns doesn't mean I've got to come up with a comparative story when I annihilate that claim. Likewise, if someone wants to make a claim about tectonic plates and then ask me how their claim works on my model I haven't claimed, then they're going to be asked to, first and foremost, describe what a tectonic plate is, which is exactly what happened. The guy refused, because he knows the moment I'm asking him a question about something like tectonic plates, it's going to end badly.
Got a bigger problem than that. Why was it taught in the 7th grade? Why is that being taught in the 7th grade?
Because it's the consensus reality of the Western world.
No. It's not a fact. It's not true.
Because it's part of the geology curriculum. That's why.
Break down what that means for him, if you would. It's part of the consensus reality. That's what we are part of. I don't like it either, Neil. But when it was laid out before me, I was aghast when I heard it for the first time, laid down. And someone pointed out, no, that is the science we're talking about. Leonardo DiCaprio, on a very mainstream, I believe, propaganda-based movie, is very literally saying what we take apart. So he's saying, your computer's based on the scientific method. No, it isn't. But that nonsense is more than happy to be tolerated because they're all spinning out their pseudoscience and asserting it as being empirical. So they need that magic trick to be purveyed out wide and far by all. So it being there in a mainstream movie is the very thing we brace against. But what is that? Well, that's consensus science. That's the society that we live in. We've all been indoctrinated and brainwashed to accept that consensus science and even at some level believe it to be empirical. That's what the whole sentiment of the Don't Look Up movie is. Yeah? You're not trusting in the mathematics of the pseudoscientists. Don't you understand that my science is empirical, your computer came from it? All lies, all nonsense. But there it is in a very mainstream movie. There for everyone to watch on Netflix. Christmas Day. Well, that's the problem we're bracing against. A consensus reality where everyone believes that because everyone believes we're on a sphere, we're on a sphere. I mean, that's what we're faced with. That's it.
I was a bit disappointed that Leonardo DiCaprio didn't actually mention email also being part of science. That would have been the cherry on top.
That's a Dr. Becky reference, isn't it?
Correct.
Speaking of Dr. Becky, how's 10th doing? Has anybody heard
But
from
I
him?
hope his wife's okay. She's broken her wrist. Nobody's heard anything from. I mean, not that you'd expect him to be emailing us and Skyping us and stuff, but our prayers go out to your wife. I hope she gets better. I hope her wrist's probably very painful. I left out the middle part. I hope her wrist gets better. It's probably very painful. As opposed to, I hope her wrist's probably very painful, which is what I actually just said.
It's funny that they brought up the null too. That nobody did a peer review on this guy's work, and then they just went out and did it, and it failed miserably.
Nobody did a peer review on it.
Yeah,
oh,
they
it's
said
lines
that,
like
right.
that.
Right. Well, that could also mean nobody actually tested whether his model had any legitimacy to it.
Yeah, sorry, those two words in that context do not go together. Unless you're talking about a model that's based on scientific empiricism, which it won't be in this context. Beyond doubt, we're talking about heliocentric models. So no, when he says it's not been through peer review, it's not even been through peer review. Who cares? So what? So if it did go through peer review and come out the other end happy as Larry, but hasn't actually been through the scientific method, the thing he claimed the computer had come from, well, then you haven't got any empiricism attached to it. At least they still have to lay the seed that there's empiricism attached by mentioning the scientific method, so it jogs your memory from when you were in school and they told you about how that method's empirical. So you've still got to drop it in at some point.
I have a question. How do we know that that would even happen if a comet hit the Earth? How the heck do we know that that's what would happen? Because that's what killed the dinosaur?
That's right,
That's
Neil.
what we're
Do you want me
going
to tell you the
Comet.
little story about 65 million years ago? Because I can tell you that little bedtime story. So that, obviously, we haven't mentioned that. That's a very good point, actually, Neil. We haven't mentioned that the presupposition of the orbital mechanical mathematics that will lead you to believe that a rock in a sky vacuum is actually traversing space, that the sky isn't being a void for the gas we're breathing to fill, and making its way through your mathematics to collide with Earth. Now, Neil's saying, how do we know that something that in their claim, in their narrative, in a heliocentric model, with all things assumed, is going to wipe out Earth if it hits it? Well, because we were all told as kids that there's a rock that wiped out the dinosaurs, aren't we, Neil? That's why. So we've got that part of the narrative, and they gave us a little reminder of the dinosaur narrative at the end. So when you're like, I'm shocked that they mentioned dinosaurs and had them eating people, why? When that's very much part of the story and is in there, if you want to call it foreshadowing, for those of us in the know.
Bronchosaurus.
Within the model, though, when you talk about gravity, and you're presupposing a sphere, and the way that you stated that sphere is this magic non-force force that you can think of as a force, but isn't a force, the energy that comet would create as it entered the air that's not filling the space would be significant enough to do massive amounts of damage.
And you've factored in the gas pressure without a container that's a nice little bed barrier because it hasn't dispersed into the sky vacuum. Did that even calculate? Because to me, when you were calculating the air resistance that the comet would encounter when reaching the sphere-shaped air that's not dispersing, obviously it acts like a cushion. And there's no barrier to make it act like a cushion. It's just a cushion of air that's not expanding into the space it's got to fill. So that would have been calculable. Not.
But what if the comet
I
breaks
think I
through
put
the
that in there.
firmament?
You think they put that in there? That what, the natural law violation that would be gas
No, I
not filling
put that in
space to
there.
performing a cushion for the comet? That was calculated, was it?
No, I put that in there. I said the air not filling the space.
Oh, I see. So the air that doesn't fill the space, you know, the comet's travelling towards that air and there's a certain amount of it that's just like chilling, violating natural law at the Kármán line, waiting to be impacted by a comet to slow it down by a certain factor. And that was factored in the gas pressure without a container, violating natural law, slowing down the comet's trajectory. Oh, of course, they've thought of everything.
Well, it's not that it's not going anywhere. It's just it's expending all of its energy with trying to keep up with its position on Earth because it's homesick.
Keep up with its energy, is it not just falling through a geodesic in space-time?
It is falling through a geodesic in space-time, but that fall is representative of it keeping up with the movement of the Earth.
I see. I mean, some people have never even heard of orbital mechanics in a heliocentric system. I mean, bloody hell. So yeah, if you're a heliocentrist and you happen to have watched Don't Look Up, be afraid. Be very, very, very afraid that you could be wiped out at any moment by a rock from the sky vacuum. And whether or not you choose to calculate in how much resistance the sphere-shaped air that's not expanding into the space it's got to fill is going to present to that comet, you can, if you want to. Just take the volume of the air to be arbitrarily assigned at the Kármán line. That's what I'd suggest, in line with heliocentric rhetoric.
Well, isn't the best part of the propaganda of that movie is that anybody that disagrees with that is dangerous? Because if they would have just listened, so
absolutely,
remember, we're dangerous too.
On the show we mainly covered this on, that was my main point. If you don't listen to the underdog heliocentric astronomer that's telling you that a comet's going to hit Earth, then I assure you that will lead to the most dire of consequences, possibly the extinction of the entire species. That's what could happen if you don't listen to your friendly local neighbourhood astronomer, because they are doing the maths, keeping it real.
Like the part
That would be a great
where
T-shirt.
they're at the rally and the president's talking, and the one redneck guy or whatever, he looks up and he goes, "Holy crap! They lied to us!" And they all start throwing bottles at Jonah Hill.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. But the whole movie was filled with such moments.
He survived.
They also had a 5 or 6 second
Everybody
cutscene,
died.
an overhead cutscene of a mass rooftop orgy at one point in the movie.
Yeah, they did. But that was already
Yeah, that's when
after
Tyler
everything was going
Perry
to go
was in the
down.
bar with the news girl.
Say again?
That was when Tyler Perry was in the bar with the lady on his co-host or whoever. That's when they panned to there. She's like, "I just want to drink and talk shit about people."
Right.
I thought the most amazing part of the entire movie was completely at the end, when the assistant guy crawls out of the rubble and starts making selfies about the apocalypse.
He's the son of the president, so he's the chief of staff, but he's also her son. And at the end of
he survived.
Yes, that's why we're talking about it. Thanks. So
you just mentioned that.
At the end of the movie, after the credits have rolled, the last Easter egg, because there's two. There's an Easter egg after the first credits have rolled, if you like, at the end of the movie, where they showed them landing on the distant rock in the sky vacuum and then getting eaten by dinosaurs. And then after the actual credits have finished, they show the chief of staff / son of the president crawling out of the rubble, and as Arwin points out, taking a selfie and saying, "Last man on Earth, y'all. Like and share."
Yes, I was saying you said everybody died. So he survived.
Y'all just ruined the movie for me. Dang.
Oh,
I wasn't gonna watch it. Yeah, I wasn't gonna watch it.
So yeah, I don't know. It's only been 3 days, but then again, I didn't exactly give any prompting. Just as the last note for the end of the live show, Tomorrow's live show is going to be a bit later on in the day, so you might want to take advantage of that if you're typically not up, because the show, for the guys in the States at least, runs very, very early. So if you're a participant that's always thought, I'd love to go on, but I'm not around at 9 a.m. if you're in New York or somewhere, or earlier if you're further over. But there we go. So tomorrow the show's going to be just that little bit later, as my kiddie winkles are having some friends over for a little party. So that should be fun. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hit the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!